flying, you're walking, we're going.
What's up guys, welcome back to my channel. So I wanted to sit down and kind of talk to you guys a little bit about some common questions that I get regarding macros, my diet, my workout split, my workout routine. I thought I would just take a few minutes and kind of answer a lot of these questions. So as you can see, I just made a cup of coffee. I've been obsessed with this new recipe lately because all you need is instant organic coffee. And then I do like a tablespoon of that with a little bit of water and then use like my like handheld frother. And then make my own homemade almond milk, which is super simple. I literally do a cup of water, a tablespoon of drippy like almond butter, and then like a tablespoon or less of maple syrup. So that's how you make the milk. And then I heat the milk on the stove, mix the two together, and it's so delicious. I'm obsessed. And it's like a nice little switch up from what I normally have. So anyways, I was gonna get ready and do my makeup and do my hair for this video, but then I figured, y'all don't judge me. So I just wanted to have like a chill sit down video and like I said, just kind of go over a few things, common questions, etc. So if you guys have watched any of my previous YouTube videos, you probably have heard me talk about the fact that I track macros. That is the diet that I follow. I have followed it for, I don't even know, 4 years plus, and it is totally what has given me the results that I have been able to achieve, and I would not be where I am without it. It taught me so much about serving sizes and what I'm putting in my body and what my body needs in order to reach certain body fat percentage level. So like I said, I'm sure you've heard me talk about macros, the power of macros, why I love macros, but I will talk a little bit more about it in this video than I normally do, just because that's kind of the whole purpose of this video, is about like a little bit more in depth on my diet. So I have, like I said, been tracking macros for about 4 years at least. And if you're not familiar with what macros are, essentially macros are your proteins, fats, and carbs, which all add up to your calorie count. So for carbs, there is 4 calories per gram of carb, and then it also is the same for protein. And then for fat, there's actually 9 calories per gram of fat. So obviously you can see that's a lot higher, which is why a lot of people who track macros are pretty conscious of having like a higher protein, higher carb diet, and a little bit lower on the fats. Not too dangerously low, but that's kind of how the structure works when you're tracking macros. And the reason I personally love tracking, and the reason I believe it's been such a game changer for me and was something that I was able to stick to throughout the years, is because it is also called flexible dieting. So you might have heard that term as well. It's the same thing as tracking macros. And the reason it's called flexible dieting is because it is exactly that. It's a flexible diet. I wouldn't even necessarily consider it a diet, because when I think of the word diet, I think of restriction. I think of things that you can't have. And that is not what macros is about. Macros is about fitting whatever foods you want into your daily macros. So when you track your macros, you figure out based on your goals and your current body and your current activity level, what your proteins, fats, and carbs should be every single day in order to reach your personal goals. And so, like I said, you're able to fit essentially whatever foods you want into those numbers as long as you're hitting those numbers every day. Now, a lot of people get excited when they hear that, because they're like, oh, well, that means I can fit, you know, Pop-Tarts and donuts and, you know, pizza and all these things into my macros and still hit my goals, which is true and is definitely one of the perks of tracking macros. However, if you are anything like me, I'm very conscious of not just macros that go into my body, but also ingredients, because we can look great on the outside, be in great physical condition, but we can still get cancer. We can still have hormone imbalances. We can still have issues with our health due to the ingredients that are going into our bodies. So although I love tracking macros because it is flexible and you are able to eat essentially whatever foods you want, I'm still a huge believer in feeding our bodies mainly whole foods, nutrient-dense foods, and foods that really do benefit us and benefit our health, benefit our gut health. And I do try to mainly stay away from processed foods, white refined sugar, stuff like that. As I have stated in some of my other videos, I do have a guide to tracking macros ebook, which will help you figure out what your numbers should be based on your body and your goals, because your numbers are most likely going to be completely different than mine, which is why I don't typically share my numbers and exactly what my macros are, because I wouldn't want anybody comparing their numbers to mine, or eating exactly what I eat or the amount that I eat, because again, we are different sizes, we have different activity levels, different goals, and so we want to make sure that if we're going to track macros, we are doing it based on our own body and personalizing them to us. So that is exactly what my ebook does. It's going to help you based on your body and your goals. It also contains some of my macro-friendly favorite recipes in there, how to track if you are going out to eat, how to track alcohol if you're going to be drinking, basically everything you need to know about tracking macros, how to make it sustainable, how to live, just live it out as a lifestyle and make it something that can really last for you long term, because at the end of the day, if we can't stick to these diets and we can't stick to living a healthy lifestyle or stick to our workouts, then what is the point? The whole entire idea of our fitness journey is to figure out what works for us and what we are able to stick to so that we can keep the results long term without torturing ourselves with crazy diets and crazy workouts that we don't enjoy. With that being said, tracking macros though is not for everyone, and I do want to put that out there because some people can get very obsessive over tracking every single crumb and every single calorie, and that's obviously not a mentally healthy place to be in. So what I do always recommend is to try it out for 3 weeks, 4 weeks, month and a half, 2 months, just again to kind of learn what you're putting in your body, because I think most people think they're getting a certain amount of protein per day, or they don't think they're getting too much fats or too much carbs, and they're really, really shocked once they start to track for a few weeks to see, wow, like I'm not eating nearly enough protein as I should be based on my goals, or I'm eating way too much fat or way too much carbs or not enough carbs. So it's like I said, it's really just a big eye opener. It can really be a helpful tool. Even if you don't track them, strictly long term, it's just a really good way to teach yourself what you're eating and, how to kind of tweak things to get you closer to your goals. I am not as strict with my macros as I have been in the past. The first 3 years of tracking macros, I was very, very precise. I use my FitnessPal. That's the app that I use to track. It's very user-friendly. It's very easy. The first couple days, it might be a little bit confusing, but you get used to it really, really quick. And once you start logging your foods in there, everything gets saved. And so it's really, really quick and easy to add your foods. And just like anything else, once you track macros for a couple of weeks or a month, it's really gonna start to become second nature, and it's really not very time consuming, because that's something I get all the time is people are like, I could never do this long term like you do, because it's like you're measuring your food and you're using your app. But again, once you start to get used to it, it's really not very time consuming. I would say it adds maybe an extra 5 to 10 minutes of my day total by tracking my food, which to me is very worth it. But like I said, I'm not as strict as I was in the past, just because I can easily eyeball just about anything at this point. I was using a food scale for the first 3-4 years. I recently stopped using it just because I simply didn't want to anymore. Like, that's the best way to put it. But a food scale is very helpful, especially if you're new to tracking macros, because that way you don't have to get out the measuring spoons and the measuring cups and all the tools to precisely measure these foods. All you have to do is put your plate or your bowl on the scale, zero it out, measure your food in grams, and it's really, really simple, or ounces or whatever. And so yeah, like I said, I recently stopped tracking so strictly just because I'm so good at eyeballing things, because I've done it for so long, and I just don't feel the need to be as strict as I was in the beginning. Just like weight training or resistance training, once you build up muscle or you build up any type of results and you stick to that for years, you're going to get to a place where you don't have to be as strict, but even though you're not, you're still gonna keep and maintain those results because you built them up and you built such a strong foundation throughout the years. So just because I'm not as strict on tracking my macros doesn't mean that I'm gonna lose the progress that I've gained. So that's really important to understand as well. But yeah, so that's kind of where I'm at with my diet. I do consume high protein. So for me, I'm 95 pounds, I'm like 4'10". So I try to get between 80 and 100 grams of protein per day. And then the rest of my calories go towards carbs and fats. I am a little bit lower on the fats. Like I said, I don't want to give my exact numbers because I know there's someone out there that's just going to take them, plug them into my FitnessPal and use them. And that is not what I want. So yeah, but just to kind of skim the surface, that's where I'm at with my macros. And like I said, I'm not super, super strict, but I am very conscious of my food, my macros, the ingredients that go into my body. And yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with my food. As far as my training split goes, I am currently doing a 5-day split. So I'm working out 5 days per week. I train lower body 2 times per week. I do upper body twice per week. One of those days I focus on back and biceps. The other day I focus on shoulders and triceps. I don't train chest as much anymore. Sometimes I'll do a little bit of body weight, push-ups, stuff like that. But I do have a breast augmentation, and ever since getting that done, I have not trained heavy chest. There's a lot of different opinions out there when it comes to if you can or you should or shouldn't do that with a breast augmentation. I just choose to kind of stay away from it because I have, again, built a foundation. So I do have muscle in my chest, so I'm not too worried about, you know, building it more. So I'm just doing little things here and there to help maintain the muscle that I built before I had my breast aug. So again, I do the 2 upper body days, the 2 lower body days. I typically do abs twice a week, and then I'll do some form of high intensity interval training twice a week as well. Usually it ends up being sprints, but sometimes it's like a lower body HIIT circuit. It just depends. But I usually will do the HIIT circuits on my upper body days, and that goes for my abs as well. My lower body days, I never have any extra energy to do things like abs or cardio. So again, those end up being on my upper body days typically. As you guys probably know, I have a lot of free workouts and free content, recipes, etc. on my YouTube channel. So if you have any questions about like my actual training or the style of training that I do, definitely check out some of my workouts. I have full workouts, upper body, lower body, abs, HIIT, on my YouTube channel. They're all really amazing workouts and they're completely free, obviously. So definitely be sure to check those out if you're curious about my actual training and stuff like that. I do also have a 12 weeks to totally transform workout guide, which will always be linked below, as well as my guide to tracking macros ebook, my website. Everything will always be linked in the description box. Hopefully you guys found this helpful and informative. These are just some common questions that I get, so I figured I would just kind of sit down and answer them for you guys. But if there is anything that I didn't answer or talk about in this video, please feel free to comment below, and I will definitely get back to you with your questions. And so with that, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.